All right, so I have about 25 minutes to ramble. Shit, I don't even know if I'll post this video. But there's a lot of things going on, I think. You know, I've been, I guess you can say, working in the shadows for the past couple years. Not on socionics, not on typology, none of that shit. But I think those systems help and determine what's in center focus. I had been so wrapped up in material acquisition and financial responsibilities, had a baby, duties as a parent, and it's been a rough ride. Let me just put it that way. I mean, it's been fun. It has its pluses and ups and downs, but I can't say that it's been easy. Now, naturally, my thought process has been geared. I mean, it's been sitting in the back of my mind for a while, right? There's a couple things that stand out to me, and one of the things that stand out to me is this whole AI revolution. I've gone from freaking myself out in the sense that iterations of things are happening so damn fast that it's really, really, really hard to keep up. There's a lot of brilliant people out there that I'm competing with, less on a work ethic level and more on an intellectual capability level. And I think that's been the entire shift in the workforce. Hold on, let me quiet my car down because I don't even think anybody can hear me. So I think that, you know, the game has changed, and I've been going from beating myself up, being like, damn, man, you spent your entire life busting your ass, learning all these skills about like leadership, and which still has value, right? But, you know, engineering, architecture, and operations, and management, sales, marketing, building a structure, building a corporation. Now, which a lot of those things are solved easily by AI. And it went from, you know, AI kind of replacing everything to prompt engineering, and even prompt engineering is becoming a kind of a fad and fading out. AI is anticipating a lot of what we're looking for. I'm not necessarily opposed to using it as a tool. What I am opposed to is using it as a crutch for intellectual reasoning. And so, you know, my family, we challenge ourselves a little bit. We go, well, let's try to reason through this instead of just leaning on AI to answer all of our questions. You know, I think I've gotten a lot dumber over the years because, in a way, I've gotten a lot more intellectually lazy. And I think in some ways I've gotten a lot smarter, or wiser at least, knowing where to pick battles, where to kind of let them down, that type of thing. And there's been a lot of occurrences of things that have come up in recent years where, you know, the thing that I think is still going to be relevant is emotional intelligence, at least for the next few years. I do feel like we're brainwashed in a number of capacities to essentially dumb us down so that we can form opinions that are very, very, very misinformed. I have so many times people have come to me and given me a piece of news, primarily on TikTok, which I think is just mass brainwashing personally. Sure, there's probably some valuable shit on there. I'm not going to deny it all. I'm sure these individual creators. But we've moved into fame being credible instead of reasoning being credible. Now, we've also learned to discredit sources. If it's coming from this guy, it must suck. I think that reasoning outweighs all that shit, right? Like, if what they're saying makes perfect sense and it's intellectually sound, and you're able to reason through it, look at the ways that it makes sense, and I would say even empirically observe how it's in reality, then you're able to kind of reason through, okay, if this makes sense, then it should apply in universal situations, if at least it's indicating truth, right? Which I think has always been my life mantra, aiming for truth. And what is the universal principle that can be applied in almost every single situation? What are the series of codes and rules? And I don't think I'm intellectual enough, or at least intelligent enough, to come up with every single variable to believe that my reasoning is so sound it's impenetrable. But I find that most of the people I'm spending time with, or at least I say spending time loosely, I'm encountering, don't seem to reason through their opinions. I find myself asking more questions than stating opinions these days. And I have opinions, but I'm also open to looking at reasoning that doesn't necessarily fit with mine and seeing if it resonates more and it points to more indicators of truth. Can it be applied in all the situations? I find myself using these analogies and exaggerated tendencies to kind of really bring out the examples that people provide for me. So somebody might make a claim and they'll say, X is true, and I'll tend to take that example and exaggerate it and blow it up, and they're like, why do you have to go to such extremes? I'm like, look, if it works in one scenario, it has to work in all scenarios. So that's where I really struggle, because I'm finding that people are not thinking through that. And I was in an organization for a while. Not my last one, but it was the one before that. And that organization, I really struggled because, to me, what was direct and obvious seemed to be missed. And I mean, meeting after meeting after meeting, I started thinking I was a fucking nutcase. And I was like, dude, am I crazy? Am I the only one that's seeing this? It's so freaking obvious. And this came from data sets to, marketing to, I remember there a very specific instance, and this is a small example, but our marketing director or chief of marketing or whatever had his team design a card which was off-center and didn't look aesthetically pleasing at all. And they published this and started sending this out to clients. And I'm like, dude, don't you want to represent your brand in a way? They're like, oh yeah. And so I said, don't you want to represent your brand in a way that reflects the goals that you're trying to aim? And they're like, yeah, I can see that, but what are you seeing? And I'm like, look, it's off-center. And it was kind of like a denial at first. So I'm like, how did you guys miss this? Like, your marketers. Like, is competence really valued anymore? Or is it just this, we got to get, what matters to people, I guess, is the question, right? Where are the values at? To me, what matters is the arts. I think the arts are the most valuable representation of humanity. And yes, AI is going to do it better. AI is going to create better images than you can ever possibly create. It's going to create better music than you can possibly create. It's going to create everything to the sense of almost perfection. Now, is it there yet? No. But, I mean, technically, it's going to be perfect. But what it's missing is the human element. And that will never go away. The imperfections is where beauty is. I never really believed in this homogenous, everything should be the same bullshit that has been spread less over the recent years, but more over the last 10 years, that, everything, the differences in like men and women has to be more equalized. And I don't mean that on a political level. I mean that more on a fundamental biological level. Like, I still think women should compete in women's sports, men should compete in men's sports, and I think it's unfair to have transgenders competing in the opposing gender sport. It's like a denial of human biology. And the fact that people support this shit is insane to me. It's absolutely insane. I don't give a shit what you want to call yourself, man, woman, honestly, like, I honestly don't care. And, but there's two things, right? Like, if we're having a respectful conversation and there's a sense of intellectual curiosity, and I can start asking questions that challenge the way you identify yourself, and you're able to receive them, then I'll respect what you wish me to call you, right? But if you're trying to change my speech because you think it's hate speech or your opinion on it, I'm not going to deny reality, right? So there's this concept that, to me, honestly, it's limiting freedom of speech. And you think about it in more of a confusing standpoint, right? If you're liberal, which, I'm liberal in some cases. I don't necessarily classify myself as a liberal. I lean conservative in most of my views traditionally, I guess. But there's some instances where I'm liberal. Like, for example, I don't give a shit who you want to have sex with. I don't care. If you're gay, whatever. I don't care. What you do in the bedroom, whether you like to wear bondage leather or, you want to whip people or you want to tie people down and gag them, as long as that's mutual consent, I don't give a shit. If you want to sleep with a man as a man, I don't care. Those are your own private rights. You can do whatever the hell you want. I'm not going to go into the biblical sense of it, because honestly I think a lot of that shit doesn't necessarily apply, and there's a lot more to it than that. But anyway, but to try to force someone to say something in a way, words form speech. It's why I do these stupid rant videos, or rant to myself staring at a fucking wall sometimes, because I have to think out loud. That's what this video is, and if anybody watches this, I'd be surprised. But I do have to think out loud. And my thoughts have been leaning a lot toward the future. I think I've been, in a lot of ways, fearful. And it's hard to admit that, because there's opportunity in everything, right? And sometimes I fail to move at the speed at which things are iterated. As soon as I build something, I consider myself very fast to take advantage of opportunities. Somebody has already thought of it. I tend to outbuild them, but what they do outdates the thing that I produce. So I'm like, shit. Like, it's all about a competition of resources. And this is where, the whole argument of capitalism, I feel, falls apart. I am a capitalist, but capitalism is breaking. It's breaking in the sense that it's turning more into an oligarchy, and who's more resourced is buying and owning corporations. And I spoke with a really intelligent individual not too long ago, and he really opened my eyes to a lot of things. I think that he's got some very strong points in what the direction is. And one thing that he said that was really interesting to me, he's got some really disruptive ideas. To what detail, I don't know exactly, but I do believe him, because the way he looks at things. And I asked him, I said, okay, you have the ability to accurately and effectively disrupt what is current. And it's always been kind of a fire that I feel in my gut, that things have to be disrupted. They have to be shaken up. And the world around us needs to change. And I think he didn't directly challenge me on that, but he did say that he was reluctant to release these disruptive ideas, because he doesn't understand, and he's not it's not even possible for him to understand the impacts of such disruption. The chaos that ensues from orders of control could be worse than what they are today. And so I think that's where the big challenge is. So my summary, and I don't want to necessarily conclude right this second, but my summary is that I think on a spiritual level that we're given this feeling, given this desire to change shit. At least some of us are. Some of us are just willing to, I don't want to call it complacency, but to stop and smell the roses and see the quality of life that you live in and be appreciative of it. And I think the balance is there is some of that, but I think that this fire will never go away. The fire that I feel as something that is unjust, and it's not about all fairness for me, it's about justice, right? And I see things that are unjust, and I feel like they need to be changed. And I feel like this fire or resistance to such things, where I tend to break these rules in order to effectively change my surroundings, was God-given in a sense. And whether or not that forms destructive tendencies, it's the certain carelessness to me, because spiritually this was given to me. Gift, curse, whatever you want to call it, it's there. And I tend to meet very few people who are motivated by change more than they are motivated by money. And sometimes one leads to the other, whatever. But forces of change, I think, it comes from birth. I felt this from the day that I could remember shit. I would say the day that I was born, but fuck, I don't remember when I was born. So that I could remember, and I remember there was a period where I was 4 years old, and it's one of my first memories, if not my first memory. And let me see what the fuck I'm going real quick.